Gu Shen opened his eyes again and became a small prison guard in the Imperial City Imperial Court of the Dayin Dynasty. Externally, the Great Yuan Dynasty was eyeing, while internally, various state armies rose up. Temples and halls are mediocre, treating the lives of the people like grass and mustard. In the conflicts of the martial arts world, there is always a strong hand in the hand. When Gu Shen discovered that he could absorb the mysterious substances produced by prisoners after death to feed himself, he decided to hide in the imperial prison and quietly cultivate until he became a top expert in the world. Keywords of the novel. Starting from the Imperial Edict to cultivate immortals without pop-ups, starting from the Imperial Edict to cultivate immortals. Download the complete TXT collection, and read the latest chapters on starting from the Imperial Edict to cultivate immortals. Chapter 1. Breaking through the shackles and promoting to the 9th rank. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Breaking through the shackles and promoting to the 9th rank. The Dayin Dynasty, the capital, and the Imperial City were ordered to be imprisoned. Gu Shen opened his eyes and saw a dimness, accompanied by polluted air in his breathing, and a faint cry of grievances coming into his ears. In front of him was a table full of knife edges and stains, with a withered yellow oil lamp lit on it. With the help of the lamp, Gu Shen lowered his head and glanced at the inferior blue and white cloth clothes, with a large circle drawn on his chest, inside which the word prison was written. Is this? Gu Shen was surprised. At the same time, there was a sudden throbbing pain in his mind, and Gu Shen's face turned pale and he was sweating profusely. He suddenly realized that there were many unfamiliar and familiar memories in his mind. After sorting out his memories, Gu Shen understood his situation. Although it was difficult to accept, the occasional pain in his head told him that he had really traveled. Damn it, I'm so foolish. How could I do such a dangerous thing? Gu Shen felt regretful. In his past life, he made an appointment with his girlfriend who had just talked for 2 weeks to go to the amusement park. Her girlfriend wanted to play bungee jumping and pulled Gu Shen along. Gu Shen didn't want to go, but couldn't resist the teasing and encouragement from his girlfriend and other tourists. With a hot head, he was dazed and tied with a bouncing rope by the staff. Then, someone pushed him from behind, and Gu Shen jumped off the platform. Gu Shen saw the rope break with his own eyes, and then he lost consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he came here. From the memory he received, Gu Shen knew his current situation as a small soldier in the imperial palace of the Dayin Dynasty. Killing in a chaotic world does not require a reason, but it is necessary when there is no chaos. The responsibility of the Imperial City Department is to gather charges. There is a rumor in the community that one may still be able to leave after being imprisoned in the heavenly prison, but after being imprisoned by the Imperial City Department, it is definitely impossible to leave alive. What surprised Gu Shen was that the body he had traveled through was also called Gu Shen, with the same name and surname. In this lifetime, Gu Shen's father was a prison guard, and most of these grassroots officials inherited their father's business. After his father's death, the original owner inherited this iron rice bowl inherited from his ancestors. The prisoners imprisoned in the imperial prison are either high-ranking officials or martial arts experts. Last month, a 6th-grade martial arts master was arrested by the Imperial City Department, and for some reason, he was detoxified by the Imperial City Department. While the original owner opened the prison door to deliver food, he suddenly attacked and injured the original owner in an attempt to escape. However, the imperial prison is heavily guarded, with 1 Imperial City Department pacifier and 3 partial generals stationed in the imperial prison to prevent anyone from robbing or escaping. The 6th-grade martial arts master was killed on the spot. Although the original master was not deliberately targeted, the 6th-grade warrior had already entered the ranks of second-rate masters, and was capable of breaking through a considerable reputation in the entire martial arts world. With just an ordinary palm, it took half of the original master's life, and he persevered for a month. In the end, the internal chi of the second-rate master in his body caused the original master to die. Similarly, Gu Shen Kai crossed over. Hiss. A piercing pain came from Dantian, making Gu Shen unable to help but let out a low growl. At the corner of the dimly lit passage, a prison guard leaned out and looked over, with a tone of concern, saying, "Xiao Gu, is there another internal injury? If it doesn't work, I'll take a leave with Captain Ma and go home to rest for a few days." The prison guard speaking is called Zhang Qinggong, who is about 40 years old, with dark skin and a slender figure. He had a good relationship with Gu Shen's father, and after his father died of illness, he also took good care of his successor Gu Shen. "Okay, I got it, Uncle Zhang," Gu Shen said. Gu Shen raised his hand and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead with the back of his hand. His face turned pale, and his legs and stomach were trembling. He was thinking that he should take a leave and find a way to heal his internal injury, otherwise he might die again. At the beginning of the founding of the Dayin Dynasty, the Imperial City Department was established. Over 200 years have passed during this period, during which the power of the Imperial City Department was either large or small. When it was large, its power was unrestricted and it supervised the world, with power only under the imperial authority. When I was young, I hid in the dark and watched coldly, waiting for the emperor to use it again. At present, it is the peak of the power of the Imperial City Department. The Yuan Dynasty is eyeing it from outside, and internal rebel forces are rising. The world is in turmoil, with a scene of the end of the dynasty. The imperial power is threatened, and the Imperial City Department has become the sharpest sword in the emperor's hand. The official position of the Imperial City Bureau is one of the Imperial City Bureau envoys, with a third-rank official position, but with immense power and actual rank higher than the third-rank official. There are two pacifiers under the Imperial City Commissioner, namely the partial general, the colonel, and the small flag. It is not common to see the governor in the imperial prison, and it is not common to disturb the general. If Gu Shen wants to take leave, he needs to find Captain Ma. Gu Shen and Zhang Qinggong, the lowest-level prison guards, are not actually included in the Imperial City Bureau system and are also under the jurisdiction of Xiaoqi. They are only seen by the Imperial City Bureau as their own people because they have been working in the Imperial City Bureau's imperial prison for generations, and ordinary things are not difficult. Gu Shen did not sit on the 8 immortals table, which was only allowed for the colonel and little banners to sit on. He could only stand against the wall of the prison cell. "I need to find a way to heal my internal injuries first, otherwise I will die again. I probably won't be so lucky to travel through next time." Gu Shen looked around and found that the imperial edict had been in place for over 200 years since its establishment. Although there were repairs in the middle, the prison was subjected to constant torture, without seeing the sun and moon, with no water or fire entering, and a plague filled the prison. Wet and dim, bacteria breed, viruses spread, and coexist with snakes, insects, mice, and ants under extremely poor conditions. We also need to find a way to quit the unfortunate job of being a prison guard as soon as possible. Working in such an environment, the cheap father who died of illness is an example, and it is difficult to live long. However, this matter requires more preparation, as the outside world is even more difficult. One mistake may result in losing one's life. Gu Shen thought to himself, the top priority is to first find ways to regulate my body and eliminate the stubborn internal qi left by those 6th-grade martial arts masters in my body. What should we do? Gu Shen did not understand the internal qi, but the original owner knew something. From the memory he received from the original owner, Gu Shen knew that the original owner also had some confidence. His father once paid the original owner to join a martial arts school to practice martial arts, but the original owner's talent was too poor. After practicing Red Flame's skill for several years, he never made it to the 9th grade. The world divides martial arts into 9 levels, with the lowest being the 9th level and the highest being the 1st level. Only by entering the 9th level can one truly enter the threshold of martial arts. The 9th, 8th, and 7th grades are known as the lower 3rd grade, and are collectively referred to as third-rate masters in the martial arts world. The 6th, 5th, and 4th grades are considered as the 3rd grade and are considered second-rate experts. 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 1st grade is the top 3rd grade, and is a first-class expert. After the 1st grade, there is also the legendary realm of the innate grandmaster, but this is too elusive and illusory. At least in the original owner's memory, there was only one innate grandmaster in the Dayin Dynasty. After thinking for a moment, Gu Shen roughly had some ideas. Based on the knowledge learned in the martial arts school before, there are 3 methods to eliminate internal qi in the body. The first method is to take medicine. Purchase a large tonic and slowly counteract internal qi with its medicinal effect, while relieving one's own injuries. However, this method takes a long time to take effect, often for several years or even longer, and during this period, I don't know how much torture and pain I will suffer, and it is extremely expensive. I simply can't afford it. This method can be preliminarily ruled out. The second method is to ask a second-rate master to use his own internal energy to guide the remaining internal energy out of my body. However, the implementation difficulty is also very high. I am just a small prison guard, where can I find a second-rate master? In the Imperial City Department, experts who have reached the 3rd level are at least partial generals. I can't even see them in person, let alone ask them to risk being countered by internal energy to save me. The third method is for me to cultivate myself to the 6th level master realm, which can easily eliminate these residual internal forces in my body. Well, this method is too imaginative and unreliable. After much consideration, Gu Shen still thought that the second method could be tried. With such a vast world, there are not only second-rate experts in the Imperial City Department. If possible, he would sell his ancestral home and pay a large amount of money to hire a second-rate expert to help. The original owner was reluctant to sell his ancestral property, but Gu Shen couldn't think about it so much. As long as he could survive, there was nothing he couldn't do. However, in this world, houses are not worth money. In addition to selling ancestral homes, he probably needs to borrow money from others. Just thinking about it, Gu Shen didn't feel a bit dizzy. He felt that God had let him travel through the world purely to make things difficult for himself. At this moment, there was noise coming from the corner of the passage, interrupting Gu Shen's thoughts. He looked up and saw Zhang Qinggong walking over. Zhang Qinggong came to Gu Shen and asked, "Xiao Gu, is everything okay?" Gu Shen coughed lightly twice, feeling that his bones had become even weaker after being stirred up by the surging internal energy in his body. He smiled bitterly and said, "Uncle Zhang, you can still hold on for a while." Sigh, Zhang Qinggong sighed. He had promised Gu Shen's father to take care of him more, but now looking at Gu Shen's dying face, he felt uneasy. "It's time to deliver lunch to the prisoner, let's go," Zhang Qinggong said. Gu Shen nodded and followed behind Zhang Qinggong, walking towards the imperial prison kitchen. Zhang Qinggong reminded Gu Shen as he walked, "Xiao Gu, you need to be careful. I don't think the prisoner in room Bingjiu can last for a few days, but those martial arts masters have some means. Even if they are worn with pipa bones and their martial arts skills are completely depleted, it's not difficult to have someone accompany them to the funeral before death." Upon hearing this, Gu Shen's spirit was shaken. He ordered the prisoners in prison to either have extraordinary identities or skills. He must learn from the lessons of his own life. Gu Shen followed Zhang Qinggong to the kitchen to collect the prisoner's lunch, picked up the bucket, and began to deliver food to the prisoner. Although it was the first time doing these things, there were memories of the original person in his mind, which was not unfamiliar. According to the different prisoners, there are also different rules for delivering rice. For those who have the will to die or have been tortured to the point of being unable to move, Gu Shen will directly pour porridge into their mouth with a spoon. For most prisoners who still have hope of survival, Gu Shen scoops out a spoonful of porridge from a bucket and pours it into a white porcelain bowl in the cell, allowing the prisoners to drink it themselves. When he arrived at cell Bingjiu, Gu Shen frowned and remembered Uncle Zhang's reminder in his mind. Gu Shen patted the fine iron railing on the child's arm with a spoon and looked inside at the prisoner with peepa bones. "We have eaten," he said after Gu Shen finished speaking. He realized something was wrong. The prisoner in the cell didn't react, hung his head cross-legged, and remained motionless. "You won't die, will you?" Gu Shen frowned. Based on experience, this person should have died, but Gu Shen dare not be careless. He scooped a spoonful of porridge from the rice bucket and threw it vigorously at the prisoner to see if he had any reaction. The prisoner remained motionless with his head hanging down. Suddenly, Gu Shen's eyes lit up, and the surrounding environment gradually blurred. Only the prisoner wearing a peepa bone hung his head. Then, a hint of black energy emerged from the prisoner's body, slowly flying towards this side. Gu Shen was shocked and suspected a conspiracy. Before the prisoner was imprisoned in the Imperial Edict, he was a 7th grade warrior. Although a 7th grade warrior is not a big deal in the Imperial Edict, he is not an ordinary person and may have some hidden cards. Gu Shen turned around and wanted to escape, but the black energy was extremely fast. Before Gu Shen could move, it floated in front of him and landed on him. When the black gas fell on Gu Shen's body, he clearly felt that his body had changed. A very thin airflow rose inside his body, making his whole body warm and comfortable. After the surrounding environment returned to normal, Gu Shen felt the airflow inside his body and was stunned on the spot. Is this internal qi? Having been trapped in the shackles of the original body for many years, is that all you have to do? Gu Shen could feel that there were 2 streams of internal qi in his body now, one left by the previous 6th level martial arts master and the other just appearing in his body. This newly emerged internal qi is slowly repairing the damage suffered in the meridians. According to the classification of martial arts levels in this world, my internal energy is now self-generating, and I can be considered a 9th grade warrior or a 3rd-rate expert. All these changes seem to have been triggered by a faint black aura rising from the prisoner just now. I have never experienced this before, and it seems to have appeared along with my journey. Is travel welfare available? Gu Shen's eyes gradually brightened, as if a grand road appeared before his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Chaotic times like this. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Chaotic times like this. Time flies by. In the blink of an eye, Gu Shen had traveled to this unfamiliar world for half a month. The capital of the Dayin Dynasty was divided into 3 major areas. Palace, Inner City, and Outer City, with ordinary people residing in the Outer City. At night, in the Outer City of Qumingfang, a small courtyard with 1 entry and 1 exit. Gu Shen sat cross-legged on the bed, very calm and quiet. His lips were lightly pursed, his eyes closed, and he had a calm and confident demeanor. Under the bright moonlight, it seemed like a faint white mist was attached. Gu Shen is practicing martial arts. Previously, he had been practicing the red flame skill for several years without making any progress. As he crossed the threshold of a 9th grade martial artist, he had already developed qi energy in his body. Qi energy flowed through his body, causing him to feel hot all over. Finally, he became even more tender and numb, with a strong force piercing through his body. At first, he felt sore, but also very comfortable. At the same time, some sweat and impurities were excreted from his skin, and his whole body was wet. However, Gu Shen could feel that with each cycle of internal skill operation, his body seemed to be baptized and purified, both inside and outside clear, with abundant energy and his whole body full of strength. An hour later, Gu Shen opened his eyes, and in the darkness, the moment he opened them, it seemed as if a bright light had flashed by. Who? Gu Shen took a deep breath and slowly felt the condition inside his body. Since breaking through the 9th level martial arts realm that day, Gu Shen has been trying to use the strand of internal energy generated in his body to entangle and pull with the internal energy left in his body by the previous 6th level master, greatly alleviating his injuries and at least surviving for a few more years. Over the past half-month, after multiple attempts, Gu Shen has gradually gained some understanding of his golden finger. I don't know what that black aura really is, but Gu Shen referred to it as his own golden finger, because it really benefits him a lot and can save his life. After trying and speculating, Gu Shen found that only within half an hour after the prisoner's death will black matter be produced that only he can see. Once it exceeds half an hour, there will be no black matter appearing. Moreover, the earlier Gu Shen stands by the prisoner's side after his death, the thicker the black material he can obtain, and the greater the feedback he receives from him. At the same time, the stronger the prisoner's strength and inner energy, the more intense the black matter becomes, and the greater the gains he receives. Originally, Gu Shen planned to sell this ancestral home and exchange gold and silver for a second-rate expert to help him heal his wounds. However, with that black aura, Gu Shen felt that there was no need to sell the house. He once thought the most unreliable method was now the most suitable one. A sixth-grade martial arts master, Gu Shen murmured softly, his eyes showing longing and anticipation. Now that he is only at level 9, he can already alleviate internal injuries. Perhaps at level 8 or 7, he can eliminate stubborn internal qi from both inside and outside the body. However, Gu Shen cannot guarantee that he always strives for stability in his actions. If level 7 does not work, level 6 can definitely cure his internal injuries and get rid of occasional pain and suffering. So Gu Shen set a goal for himself to become a 6th level martial arts master first. It's important to save your life. For ordinary martial artists, it is not difficult to reach the 3rd level martial arts realm and become a second-rate expert, but it is also rare. The number of people practicing martial arts in the Dayin Dynasty is countless, but the number of second-rate experts in the martial arts world is also limited, and they can basically be called famous. It is evident that the difficulty is great, and financial and talent are indispensable. But Gu Shen is different. He can improve himself by absorbing black matter, even without the need for enlightenment. He only needs to reach the realm, and enlightenment is self-generated. Moreover, the Imperial Prison is a good place, protected by layers of experts from the Imperial City Department, with a safety level that can be said to be second only to that of the Imperial Palace. Moreover, the Imperial Prison has a unique advantage for Gu Shen. Currently, the Imperial City Department has immense power, overseeing officials and horses trampling on the rivers and lakes, with serious criminals being detained every day. The Imperial Prison is not a heavenly prison. Once you enter, you can still leave. Once you enter the Imperial Prison, it is extremely difficult to leave alive unless ordered by the Emperor. After entering the prison, one still has to wait for interrogation and conviction in front of the court, but most of the time in the Imperial Edict, one is beaten to death before being convicted, and after being subjected to all kinds of torture, no one can leave halfway. I'm not leaving. Just stay in the Imperial Prison until no one can kill me before leaving. Gu Shen had previously thought of resigning from his iron rice bowl in the Imperial Prison as soon as possible, feeling that the smoke and miasma inside were not good for his health and damaged his lifespan. However, now in Gu Shen's eyes, this place full of smoke and miasma has become an unparalleled feng shui treasure in the world. The morning sunshine is abundant, but the autumn wind blows and the fallen leaves rise, still feeling a bit cool. Gu Shen wrapped himself around his collar and quickened his pace to reach the Imperial Prison. After clicking the Mao button, Gu Shen followed his colleagues to inspect the prison room. On the surface, they inspected the room, but in reality, Gu Shen was searching for a target. The prisoner in room 13 is almost exhausted, but this guy is a civil servant and useless to me. He's really a waste. The prisoner in room Bing.6 is a 6th grade expert. Yesterday, he spat a mouthful of phlegm from Captain Ma and was subjected to palace punishment in his anger. He felt extremely humiliated and committed suicide by biting his tongue and going on a hunger strike. It's probably only a few days, so he needs to pay attention. The prisoner in room 8 is an 8th grade expert, with all his ribs broken and no fingers left. He probably won't live long either. Gu Shen was calculating in his heart. Time has passed for him to travel, and in the face of these bloody and brutal scenes, he has gradually become accustomed to it. It is not his cruel bloodthirsty nature, but rather his lifelong friend who never dies from poverty. Gu Shen is still too busy to care for himself. Xiao Gu, I see your health has improved a lot. Xiao Qi Su Yan, who was walking ahead, turned around and asked. Gu Shen was surprised. He did not disclose the fact that he had entered the 9th grade martial arts realm, fearing that it would attract the attention of those with intentions and cause disaster. So although his injuries have improved a lot during this period, he still pretends to be seriously ill and has not recovered. He only coughs less frequently, and his face is not as pale as half a month ago, as if half a foot has stepped into the gates of hell. Gu Shen coughed lightly twice, his voice weak, and said, Brother Su, I feel better now, but Dantian still occasionally hurts and his body is weak. Sigh. Su Yan looked at Gu Shen with some pity and comforted him, just feel better now. I think you've made it through. Xiao Gu, take care of yourself. Once you're well, I'll take you to Xiaoxiang Hall to have a good time. Recently, a new famous prostitute from Jiangnan has arrived at Xiaoxiang Hall. In recent years, Jiangnan has been in turmoil, and few famous prostitutes from Jiangnan have come to Beijing again. Unfortunately, I still plan to take you to see the world this time. You won't have this opportunity. Upon hearing this, Gu Shen breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that Su Pengzi wanted to take him to that place, as long as he didn't discover his disguise. Gu Shen smiled bitterly and said, Brother Su, let's do it next time. Su Yan laughed and said, Okay, definitely next time. During their conversation, after inspecting the other side of the cell, little flag Li Jie and prisoner Zhang Qinggong also arrived. Gu Shen has a calm and non-competitive personality, and over the past 2 weeks, he has gradually become familiar with his colleagues. Su Yan told Li Jie and Zhang Qinggong about the famous prostitutes from Jiangnan coming to Xiaoxiang Mansion, and the two of them exclaimed, Let's go together. Afterwards, I couldn't help but say a few words of comfort to Gu Shen. The 4 of them arrived at the 8 immortals' table, ready to sit down separately. Suddenly, they heard the Tianjin gate slowly rising at the entrance of the Imperial Edict. Here we go, Su Yan said, and the 4 of them quickly stood up and walked towards the entrance of the Imperial prison. At the same time, deep inside the Imperial Edict, several figures quickly rushed over and approached, causing great surprise to Gu Shen and the other 4. The highest official of the Imperial prison, Yu Qizhi, the governor of the Imperial City, Yang Xiaohua, and several colonels have all come over. What kind of criminal is this? Surprisingly alarmed the governor. Gu Shen lowered his head, afraid of attracting the attention of the governor and the general, and his thoughts quickly changed, speculating on the identity of the newcomer. At this moment, the Imperial prison gate opened and 4 people walked in from outside. 3 of them were wearing military uniforms of the Imperial City Department, with 1 person escorting them. Describing it as escort seems somewhat inappropriate, more like an escort. Because the person in the middle was dressed in a luxurious robe, there was no other prisoner who had been arrested and imprisoned in the Imperial Edict, but his face showed anger and disdain for the surrounding officials of the Imperial City Department. Strange. Gu Shen was surprised in his heart. He had also seen a prisoner with a nose full of air in the Imperial prison. He had not yet adapted to the change in identity, but soon the officials at all levels of the Imperial City Department in the Imperial prison would beat him and make him cry and cry. It's just that the people from the Imperial City seem to be very polite to this young man. After some negotiations, the 3 Imperial City officials who were escorted left. The governor politely led the young man in splendid attire to the depths of the Imperial prison, while the general and the colonel followed behind the 2. Su Yan, Li Jie, Zhang Qinggong, and Gu Shen remained silent from beginning to end, just pure props. Who is that person? Li Jie asked curiously in a low voice, leaving only 4 people. However, the other 3 had not seen much of the world and looked at each other. Quickly, Captain Ma returned and was pulled by Su Yan to the 8 Immortals table to inquire about the identity of the visitor. Captain Ma kept it a secret and did not mention a word. Gu Shen was also curious about the identity of the young man with a nose full of air, but he remained curious and did not inquire. He had seen too many stories about curiosity killing cats, so it was better to keep a low profile. For Gu Shen, this was a special experience because he didn't stay in the imperial prison for 2 days, and the young man in splendid attire swaggered away. Before leaving, he even spat thick phlegm into the imperial prison. This is the first time Gu Shen has seen such an arrogant person. 2 more days later, Zhang Qinggong privately talked about this matter, and Gu Shen only found out the true story of the young man's imprisonment. The day before, Ma Xiaowei, Su Yan, Li Jie, and Zhang Qinggong went to Xiaoxiang Hall and met a famous prostitute from Jiangnan. Ma Xiaowei also received a handkerchief gifted by a famous prostitute from Jiangnan. Excited, he drank heavily and inadvertently revealed the identity of the young man. That young man's name is Zhao Shuang. He is the grandson of Emperor Xuanhe and the grandson of the Dayin Dynasty. He is truly a noble son of the royal family. In the early part of this month, Emperor Xuanhe held an autumn hunt, in which many princes and grandchildren participated. Zhao Shuang did not catch any prey, and as he watched his other uncles and brothers harvest a lot, he became angry and ran deep into the forest to hunt. There was already an autumn hunting ground, and occasionally people came here for an outing. Zhao Shuang was eager to hunt, and when he saw a figure in the forest, he would shoot an arrow. Unexpectedly, the opponent was not a prey, but a family of 3 who came for an outing. After Zhao Shuang realized that he had shot the wrong thing, he not only did not stop, but also ordered his attendants to catch the family of 3 and use them as targets. The young couple and the 3-year-old child were both shot alive with bows and arrows to become hedgehogs. Later, when the situation leaked out, Emperor Xuanhe became furious and ordered the Imperial City Commissioner Jian to imprison Zhao Shuang and discipline him well. Then Gu Shen knew about the situation. Zhao Shuang stayed comfortably and deliciously in the imperial prison for 2 days, and then swaggered out of the prison. This is despicable, but that's all. Gu Shen's corner of the eye jumped fiercely, and a wave of anger rose in his chest. Cough, cough, cough. Emotional fluctuations caused internal injuries, and Gu Shen coughed fiercely. Zhang Qinggong sighed and said, "Alas, Xiaogu, you're still young. In this world, life is like a blade of grass. A few days ago, when I went to Qingzhou to handle affairs, I saw many disaster victims coming from the south. Local officials don't treat them like people, don't let them enter the city, and don't give them food. Do you know what they eat?" Gu Shen said, "Bark. Grass roots." "It's already finished," Zhang Qinggong shook his head and said. Gu Shen frowned and asked, "What do you want to eat?" Zhang Qinggong's face was complex, and he said in a deep voice, "Easy, but eat." Gu Shen's eyes widened in disbelief. Although he knew the world outside was chaotic, had it already become so chaotic? Zhang Qinggong sighed heavily and said, "If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it." "You haven't seen that scene." There was a mother who had just given birth, and women holding the child kept coming over to ask if they wanted to change. Sigh, this day in Chaozhen. What Zhang Qinggong said later, Gu Shen didn't pay attention and his mind was full of easy eating. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 3 Reflections on My Day and My Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 3 Reflections on My Day and My Body. Zhao Shuang's incident had a great impact on Gu Shen. It's really not easy to survive in this chaotic world where human lives are like grass. In the eyes of powerful figures like Zhao Shuang, they could kill their entire family just to vent their anger. This kind of feeling is difficult to describe. Suddenly realizing one's own insignificance, perhaps one day a big shot will crush oneself like an ant if they don't like it. This is really heart-wrenching and makes Gu Shen restless. He made up his mind to strive to become a very high-level expert before going out. Now it seems that it is better to issue an edict to prison. From this day on, Gu Shen worked even harder to cultivate, and he knew the physical condition of the prisoners in the entire imperial prison as well as his fingertips. The imperial edict divided the prison cells into 3 types: A, B, and C. It is said that 200 years ago, when the imperial edict was established, there were also T-shaped cells. However, over the next 200 years of development, the T-shaped cells gradually became a resting place for the governors and generals of various dynasties. The martial arts were like sailing, and if one did not advance, they would retreat. Unless a major event occurred, the governors and generals would only stay deep in the imperial edict to practice martial arts. There is not much difference between a B-class cell and a C-class cell. Initially, the railings in a B-class cell were thicker and stronger than those in a C-class cell. However, nowadays, after multiple rounds of reinforcement, the differences between B-class and C-class cells seem to be significant. Ordinary martial arts experts who have been exposed to pipa bones and taken huagong powder will be like ordinary people, with greater strength at most, but it is extremely difficult to break free from this type of cell. The Type A cell is specifically used to detain third-grade martial arts masters. Unlike the Type B and C cells, the Type A cell has 2,000-pound gates. Open one and close it, then open the back one to enter the cell. In room 6, Gu Shen arrived outside the prison cell and, through the thick iron railing at the mouth of the bowl, saw that the prisoners inside had lost their breath. "I'm still dead after all." The prisoner's name is Lin Wuyo, and Gu Shen has been paying attention to him for many days. He is a 6th-grade martial arts master who often robs the rich to help the poor, and has a good reputation in the martial arts world. Gu Shen still remembers how handsome the prisoner was when he was first arrested, but now he has a pitiful appearance like a ghost, with a withered lamp. This may also be a relief for him. During the previous interrogation by torture, Lin Wuyo spat at Captain Ma with blood phlegm and was executed on the spot by the impatient Captain Ma. Afterwards, Lin Wuyo was completely determined to die. Without waiting for Gu Shen to think more, as he approached, a black substance floated up from Lin Wuyo's body and flew towards Gu Shen, gradually merging into his body. As if taking a large tonic, Gu Shen's face slightly flushed, feeling the surging and strengthening of internal qi in the meridians. Gu Shen's face changed and he quickly walked towards the A-class prison. The 5th prison cell was in an empty state. Gu Shen first opened 1,000 kilogram gate, then closed the first 1,000 kilogram gate upon entering, and then opened another 1,000 kilogram gate before entering the cell. After closing the second 1,000 kilogram gate, Gu Shen sat cross-legged in the cell. The A-class prison has no windows, no sun or moon, and the interior is pitch black. Gu Shen felt the surging flow of internal energy in his body, as he learned the technique of red flame technique from a martial arts school. During the movement, there was a hint of heat, and he was sweating profusely in the darkness. After the black substance was integrated, the internal qi grew stronger than before, and Gu Shen could feel that the metabolism was faster than before, like some impurities were excreted from the body and the surface was sticky. After 2 sticks of incense, Gu Shen slowly opened his eyes. He felt like he was in an unprecedented state, with a healthy body, full of vitality, and a strong spirit. There was a force in his body. Promoted to 8th grade. Feeling the state of his body, Gu Shen felt relieved. After absorbing black substances from 6 prisoners for over a month, he finally crossed from the 9th grade martial arts realm to the 8th grade martial arts realm. The original talent is extremely poor, and it takes 3 or 4 years to reach the threshold of the 9th grade. If Gu Shen cultivates normally with the talent inherited from the original master, it will take at least 10 years or even longer of hard work to break through to the 8th grade. Even for some highly talented geniuses, it will take at least 1 year. But now Gu Shen has only been using it for over a month, and this promotion speed is simply terrifying and astonishing. Without delaying time, Gu Shen was afraid of not appearing for too long to attract attention. Without careful reflection and contemplation, he got up and left room 5. After being released from the yamen, Gu Shen walked out of the imperial prison. It was already dark and he returned to his home in Qumingfang. Gu Shen took a cold water bath to wash away the dirt on his body, then ate something casually before returning to his room to meditate and gain insight. The span between the 8th and 9th grades is very large, and Gu Shen has no master, so he can only rely on his own slow exploration. An hour later, Gu Shen finally took credit. He felt the changes in his body while pondering his current situation. In the imperial prison, almost all the prison guards were ordinary people of the 9th grade, and due to the poor air and environment inside the prison, their bodies were not as good as ordinary people. Small flags like Su Yan and Li Jie have a cultivation level of 9th grade martial arts. The cultivation level of the school captains is generally higher, mostly in the 8th grade martial arts realm. Some school captains have reached the 7th grade martial arts realm, such as Ma Xiaowei. Now my strength is barely comparable to that of a colonel, but I am still in the 3rd rank. Even in the martial arts world, I am just an ordinary 3rd-rate expert. I still need to develop in a low-key manner, not expose my current strength, and not attract others' attention. Gu Shen, think about Lin Wuyo's fate. I reflect on myself 3 times a day. During this period, we have absorbed the black substances produced by 6 prisoners' deaths, which can be said to have yielded fruitful results, but there are also areas for reflection. Gu Shen identified a total of 10 target prisoners, one of whom died for more than half an hour due to Gu Shen's carelessness and could no longer produce black matter. There is also one who is very resilient and did not die from the torture of the Imperial City Department until he reached the guillotine. The other 2 are still alive today. At first, their bones were quite hard, but after various forms of torture and greetings, they became dogs crawling around, causing a large number of people to be imprisoned. This black substance has great benefits for me, but I also need to pay attention to its drawbacks. As long as it meets the 2 conditions of being with me within half an hour after the prisoner's death, the black substance will directly float into my body. It's usually okay, but once it involves the improvement of the Great Realm, I can easily control the sudden increase in internal qi. If it is exposed and discovered by the experts, it will be studied as a little white mouse, and then it will be ruined. In the future, when I cross levels and improve, if there are outsiders present or the environment is not suitable, I will stay away from the corpse and would rather not break through than expose it. Gu Shen was sorting and summarizing his experiences during this period in his heart. The next day, with a slight dawn, Gu Shen arrived at the imperial prison Yingmao. Above the gate of the imperial prison was a fierce beast named Dayin, which was shaped like a tiger, with its teeth and claws waving, terrifying and ferocious. After entering the gate and nodding with his colleagues, Gu Shen inspected various cells as usual. Today, he inspected more cells because Zhang Qinggong, who was with him, was arranged by Captain Ma to carry the body. After the death of a prison inmate is discovered, he will be directly lifted with a door panel and thrown outside the door, handing it over to the prisoner's relatives. If the prisoner has no relatives, they will be dragged outside the city and thrown at a mass grave. It is estimated that a prisoner died last night, Gu Shen speculated. Sure enough, while he was patrolling the prison cell, room 13 was already empty. Previously, there was a university PhD locked here, who had only been burned twice and his body couldn't withstand it. Compared to those martial arts experts, it was really much worse. After Zhang Qinggong returned, he complained, and the imperial scholar was covered in feces, urine, and blood, which almost made him vomit the next night's meal. At noon, Gu Shenduo went to the kitchen to collect a bucket of rice and deliver it to the prisoner. When it was delivered to room B, he glanced at the prisoner twice, which was one of his goals. The prisoner in room 2 has now become a bloody person, with 2 thick and fine steel chains running through his pipa bone, resembling a skinned ghost, which is terrifying. When Gu Shen first saw this prisoner, he was also startled, truly terrifying. The name of this criminal is Cui Guoyang. He was originally the commander of Jingzhou, a second-class officer of the dynasty, and also a fourth-class martial arts powerhouse. After the Southern Rebellion rose up, Cui Guoyang led his army to suppress the rebellion, with more victories and fewer defeats. The momentum of the uprising was suppressed and gradually fell into the disadvantageous position. Unexpectedly, the governor of Jingzhou suddenly gave Emperor Xuanhe a secret order, and Cui Guoyang, the commander of Jingzhou, took care of himself by raising bandits and conspired to rebel. The governor of Jingzhou was originally a trusted confidant of Emperor Xuanhe, and with numerous pieces of evidence, Emperor Xuanhe immediately ordered the governor of Jingzhou to temporarily serve as the commander-in-chief to quell the rebellion. The Imperial City Department escorted Cui Guoyang to the capital and ordered him to be imprisoned. The Imperial City Department exhausted all means, and Cui Guoyang also insisted that he had no intention of rebellion. Until now, there has been no progress in Cui Guoyang's affairs, and not many people have even inquired, making Gu Shen feel a cold attitude from the court. However, even a fourth-level expert is still a mortal body. Although the tenacity and resilience of life far exceed that of ordinary people, with so much torture, Cui Guoyang can hardly hold on anymore. Mr. Cui, it's time for dinner. Gu Shen scoops a spoonful of porridge from the bottom of the bucket, pours it into Cui Guoyang's bowl, sighs in a low voice, and turns to leave. After a long time, Cui Guoyang opened his eyes and looked at the congee in front of him, but did not move. Days just pass by day. In the eyes of his colleagues, Gu Shen's body was still weak, coughing from time to time, but he was gradually improving, at least not worrying about his life anymore. Gu Shen plans to pretend to unintentionally reveal that he has entered the 9th-level martial arts realm in a while. After all, he cannot conceal the changes in his body. It is better to speak out generously. Moreover, everyone knows that he has practiced martial arts for several years and entering the 9th level is not sudden. On that day, Gu Shen was sitting at the 8 Immortals table listening to Su Yan boasting about how seductive and graceful the girls in the Xiaoxiang pavilion were, how proficient they were in singing, playing, and singing. Another prisoner entered the Imperial Edict. Every day, people come in and out of the Imperial Edict prison vertically and horizontally. The reason why Gu Shen pays attention to the newcomers is because they are famous generals and 5th-grade experts. The second reason is that this general was arrested and imprisoned, related to an acquaintance. P.S. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendation and collection support. Let me update you on the future updates. Starting from tomorrow, we will update every day at 12:01 a.m., 6:01 p.m., and 10:01 p.m. There should only be one shift on Sunday, depending on the situation, as the author also wants to take a break on the weekend. Thank you everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Land Rise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Land Rise. The general who was arrested and imprisoned is named Lu Qi. He is 8 feet tall and has a rough face, but his demeanor exudes a touch of elegance, giving people a feeling of being a Confucian general. Gu Shen knew about Lu Qi's situation, but Su Yan still revealed it. Last time, Zhao Shuang, the great-grandson of the dynasty, was arrogant and domineering in the Imperial Edict, leaving a deep impression on the officials of the Imperial Edict. This incident involved Zhao Shuang, an acquaintance, and also became a topic of discussion in the imperial prison. Lu Qi's wife, Bai Shisheng, is beautiful. She went shopping in the night market but was caught and harassed by Zhao Shuang. Later, when Lu Qi was not at home, he led someone to break into his home and took the opportunity to violence the Bai family. Bai couldn't bear to be humiliated and hanged himself at home. Later, Lu Qi found Zhao Shuang with a knife in the brothel to demand an explanation, but was stopped by experts around Zhao Shuang. When the people from the Jingzhou mansion and the Imperial City Department arrived, they were arrested on charges of assassinating imperial relatives and the current imperial grandson. They raided his home and imprisoned Lu Qi. After listening to Lu Qi's story, Gu Shen ignited a flame in his heart. This dynasty has decayed from the inside out. From that day on, Gu Shen became increasingly silent and his motivation to search for targets became stronger. The commanding general of the Forbidden Army and a 5th-grade expert, surprisingly ended up in such a fate. His wife was targeted by the crown prince and her family was raided and her door was destroyed. If he doesn't work hard now, one day when he encounters the situation of Lu Qi, he will only be worse off than Lu Qi. Gu Shen sympathized with Lu Qi in his heart, but there was not much he could do, so he could only scoop some thick food for him when delivering food. Room C4, Lu Qi is locked here. The interrogation is currently underway. Captain Ma had his hands behind his back, and the flames shone on his face, appearing somewhat gloomy. Li Jie, Su Yan, and another small flag named Tao Yiqiang are serving Lu Qi's execution. Gu Shen stood guard at the entrance of the prison cell, also watching the execution. This punishment was pioneered by the Imperial City Department and is called playing the pipa. The offender is placed on the ground, controlled by their hands and feet, their shirt is removed, and their ribs are exposed. Then, a sharp knife is used to forcefully flick the offender's ribs back and forth. Gu Shen had seen Captain Ma use this technique to interrogate prisoners before. Most of the prisoners were in great pain, unable to survive, unable to die, and their flesh and blood were rotting. Eventually, their skin and flesh slowly opened and cracked, causing both itching and pain. Gu Shen couldn't bear it, but he didn't look away. Although no one paid attention to him at this moment, he couldn't be careless. Moreover, if he wanted to stay in the imperial prison for a long time, such a scene would not be uncommon. He was forcing his heart to harden. This time, Lu Qi's mournful cries lasted for 2 hours. Gu Shenfang went home and passed by the distillery to make a pot of wine. At home and in the yard, a small table has been set up. Gu Shen sat at the table, half a pound of roasted beef, and drank a whole pot of wine. I looked up at the moon in the sky for a long time, then returned to my room to rest. The torture of the Imperial City Department was not endured for 3 days before Lu Qi signed his name. The bones of the 5th-grade master are very hard, but they were still broken by Captain Ma. Gu Shen knew that the grandson Zhao Shuang had sent someone to the imperial prison and delivered a message to Captain Ma. Although the Imperial City Department has immense power, the current imperial grandson dare not offend. What Zhao Shuang specifically explained to Captain Ma is unknown to Gu Shen, but it is inevitable that Lu Qi will be killed. After all, considering from a different perspective, Gu Shen also does not want anyone to constantly think about killing him. But when Gu Shen heard about the charges against Lu Qi, he realized that he was still too naive. After investigation by the Imperial City Department, it was found that the leader of the Imperial Army, Lu Qi, conspired with Yanzhou to rebel and secretly collude with the enemy to betray the country. He was sentenced to Ling Qi and transferred to 3 tribes. Gu Shen suddenly realized that Zhao Shuang was not only going to kill Lu Qi, but also to eradicate the root cause and kill all of Lu Qi's family. Grass, sooner or later, labor and capital will be blackened out by this distorted world. Gu Shen complained in his heart. While patrolling the various cells, Gu Shen saw Lu Qi again, his ribs completely broken, and he relied on the strong vitality of a 5th-grade master to persevere. Can't you walk in front of Sui Guoyang? Gu Shen thought to himself upon seeing this. After patrolling the prison, Gu Shen began another busy day of work. Almost 3 or 4 batches of prisoners were brought in every day, which made Uncle Zhang miss the days when the world was not so chaotic. The imperial edict only allowed a few prisoners to arrive in a few days, and the current workload is several times that of the past. However, regarding the huge workload and harsh working environment of the imperial prison, Gu Shen has no complaints and works diligently. If there is a year-end selection activity for the imperial prison, Gu Shen will definitely be named one of the top 10 prisoners of the year. It is precisely because Gu Shen is not talkative and works diligently that everyone has a good impression of him. In the next 5 days, Gu Shen absorbed the black substances that appeared after the death of 8 prisoners, feeling that his internal energy became stronger and not far from breaking into the 7th level martial arts realm. After being released from the government office, Gu Shen walked out of the imperial prison gate and felt the fresh air outside. Although he enjoys working as a prison guard, the humid and foul-smelling air quality inside is indeed uncomfortable. When passing by the neighborhood market, people come and go, and the sound of shouting and clamor is incessant, with a strong smell of fireworks. He saw the Xiaoxiang Pavilion, which was highly praised by Su Yanko. It was a 5-story building, with embroidered silk tied to the outside of each floor and swaying in the wind. There were also street-facing windows on the 3rd and 4th floors, and the colorful girls waved handkerchiefs or covered their mouths and chuckled, creating a unique atmosphere. Gu Shen withdrew his gaze and continued walking forward. Suddenly, he saw some saplings placed outside a wooden merchant's shop. Gu Shen stopped and felt that his small courtyard was somewhat empty, with only one well. Buy a sapling and plant it in the yard, you can also enjoy the cool in summer, Gu Shen thought to himself. He looked outside the wood merchant's shop for a while, and finally spent 60 yuan to buy a wudong sapling. He thought that the yard would be beautiful if it was covered with gold next autumn. Holding a sapling as thick as a child's arm, Gu Shen returned to his own yard in Qumingfang. After a lot of busy work, I finally planted the saplings in the middle of the yard. Clapping his hands, Gu Shen looked at his achievements and nodded in satisfaction. Although work is abnormal, life still needs to have a sense of style. After finishing his meal, Gu Shen returned to his bedroom to meditate and practice. In the past 2 days, his qi had become slightly restless. He had already felt a layer of barrier, and he knew that if he took one more step forward, he would reach the 7th grade. There are 2 more steps, Gu Shen thought to himself. When Gu Shen first crossed over, he set his goal for himself. To enter the 6th level martial arts realm and become a second-rate expert. He took another step forward and it was 7th grade. At the 7th level, there is only 1 step away from the 6th level martial arts realm. Upon closer inspection, Gu Shen realized that the strand of internal energy in his body that had almost killed him had been suppressed by his own internal energy, and there would be no more troubles. I just want to immediately expel this internal energy from my body, not yet. Gu Shen suspected that the cultivation technique of the 6th grade master at the time should be quite special, otherwise he wouldn't have secretly unlocked the Huagong powder of the Imperial City Department and then broke free. The wisp of internal qi that remains in my body now is particularly tenacious, perhaps only when I achieve the 6th level martial arts realm can I completely eliminate it. 2 days later. Sui Guiliang finally ran out of oil and died. This grand 2nd-rank general, a 4th-rank martial arts master, and a prominent figure in charge of the military affairs of Izhou, silently died in the imperial prison. Gu Shen arrived 2 steps away from the prison cell of Sui Guiliang and saw this scene with some sadness. A few days ago, he predicted that Lu Qi would take 1 step ahead of Sui Guiliang. However, he didn't expect Lu Qi to still hold his breath, while Sui Guiliang took 1 step ahead. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Going upstairs requires extra money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Going upstairs requires extra money. Gu Shen deliberately did not get too close to the prison door, fearing the appearance of black matter. He looked around and ordered the prison to remain as dark as ever. At the end of the passage, there were faint voices of the Imperial City officials speaking, but they could not be heard accurately. Based on this, there was some distance. There are no prisoners in room E on the left yet, and a Hanlon scholar on the right who is not proficient in martial arts. After confirming that there was no risk around him, Gu Shen took 2 steps forward and pressed against the railing of room B and 2. However, no black substance appeared. Gu Shen guessed where the problem lay. The body of Sui Guiliang was a bit far from the prison gate and failed to trigger the 2nd condition for the appearance of black matter. Gu Shen looked left and right and immediately found the key to room B from a string of keys around his waist. When he opened the prison door, Gu Shen's skin was tense, but he pretended to check whether Sui Guoyang was alive or dead on the surface. Fortunately, the prison was always noisy and chaotic, and no one noticed it. In the prison cell, Sui Guoyang had lost his breath. The reason why he had not tilted was only because the two large steel chains covered in black and red stains penetrated his pipa bones. As Gu Shen entered the prison cell, some black substances floated on the body of Sui Guoyang, gradually scattering onto Gu Shen's body. Gu Shen trembled slightly, and the internal energy in his meridians clearly felt stronger. His body was also very comfortable, as if bathing in a divine spring. Gu Shen didn't dare to delay and quickly left room 2. When leaving, he casually locked the prison door. He quickly walked towards the idle prison cell number 5, opened 2,000-pound gates one by one, and entered the cell to meditate. The effect of black substances entering the body is still fermenting, and the internal qi surges and surges in the meridians, with fine sweat oozing from the forehead and body surface. At this moment, when Gu Shenyan's internal energy has a regular flow, pain and pleasure coexist in the body. 1 day a week. 2 weeks. 3 weeks. When Gu Shen also forgot about the circulation of internal qi in the meridians for several weeks, he once again felt that layer of diaphragm. Just this time, the internal qi did not stop at all, and with one breath, it broke through this layer of diaphragm. The internal qi continues to circulate, and with each cycle of movement, the internal qi grows by another point. Half an hour later, Gu Shen opened his eyes and a bright light suddenly flashed through the dark cell. Is this the 7th grade martial arts realm? Gu Shen had a slight realization and adjusted his state, which was no different from before the breakthrough, before leaving room 5. Arriving outside the prison cell of Sui Guoyang, no one had yet discovered his death. Gu Shen followed the dim imperial edict passage to the 8 immortals table and woke up Su Yan, who was sleeping soundly. Brother Su, Sui Guoyang has died. Oh. Finally dead. The second-rank high-ranking official of the court died in the imperial edict prison. Su Yan was not panicked, but rather in a good mood, as if relieved. Su Yan picked up his bowl and took a sip of water, then said to Gu Shen, I'll go find Captain Ma. Xiao Gu, you stay here and watch. Gu Shen responded and looked at Su Yan's departing figure, feeling emotional in his heart. Sui Guoyang is his key focus, and Gu Shen has been keeping track of his situation. He speculated that many people now know that Sui Guoyang was unjustly accused, including Emperor Xuanhe. Perhaps due to the emperor's face, perhaps the emperor did not like Sui Guoyang, or perhaps for some other reason, Sui Guoyang must die. Maybe everyone is waiting for him to die. The death of Sui Guoyang did not stir any waves, as if he had died an ordinary criminal. As usual, the imperial court did not respond to the imperial edict. Gu Shen only occasionally thought of a second-rank general named Sui Guoyang, who was arrested without any reliable evidence, subjected to severe punishment and beating, and ultimately died in imperial prison when he was lying in bed in the dead of night. On that day, Gu Shen told his colleagues about stepping into the 9th grade martial arts realm. This matter cannot be concealed, because just over a month ago, Gu Shen was still a half-dead and sickly seedling. Now that he looks no different from ordinary people, it must be that the injury he suffered before has been resolved. Instead of letting others guess, it's better to proactively give a reason. Ma Xiaowei was very happy and smiled, saying, Xiao Gu, this is a blessing in disguise. Originally, with your qualifications, you may not be able to cross the threshold of the 9th grade martial arts realm in another 3 to 5 years. However, because Zhang Buqing left a strand of internal qi in your body, it caused you damage and also triggered some of the micro-internal qi you have cultivated over the years. These micro-internal qi were transported and only then did you cross the threshold of the 9th grade martial arts realm. Gu Shen was also very happy, and Captain Ma gave him a very reasonable reason to step into the 9th grade martial arts realm, saving him some time to talk. It should be like this. Gu Shen scratched his head, his face smiling with shyness and joy. This is the normal response. Everyone was also happy for Gu Shen. Zhang Qinggong stood by with a smile. He was an ordinary person who had practiced martial arts before, but had not developed any internal qi. He could only be considered a more powerful ordinary person. Watching Gu Shen enter the 9th grade martial arts realm, Zhang Qinggong envied him and was also happy for Gu Shen. Finally, his virtuous nephew did not need to die young. Su Yan hugged Gu Shen's shoulder and said, "Xiao Gu, your health is better now. In a few days, I will take you to the Xiaoxiang pavilion. The girl in that fence is not to be underestimated for her water spirit. Even a pinch will make her water. Water out." Gu Shen was taken aback and asked curiously, "Brother Su, when I left the yamen, I saw the Xiaoxiang hall from afar. It was very imposing and should be very expensive. I don't have money. Brother Su, will you treat me? Gu Shen has money in his hands, and the job of serving as a prison guard is very lucrative. However, he recently plans to spend money on buying a better martial arts book, which is expensive. After deducting this money, he really has no money left. How much silver is there?" Su Yan shook his head. "I'm not interested in these things, so I won't go," Gu Shen said in a deep voice next to him. Li Jie smiled and said, "Xiao Gu, you can follow and take a look. Your body hasn't fully recovered yet. Just listen to a song and it won't cost much, but you'll have to pay more. You have to pay extra to go upstairs, which I have heard of before." Gu Shen raised his eyebrows and nodded, "You can listen to some music. Just listen to the music on Goulan, we don't have money for real combat." Su Yan patted Gu Shen's shoulder and said, "Xiao Gu, I've been feeling a bit weak lately. Wait for me 2 days to recover my energy, and I'll take you there in a few days." Having made an appointment with Su Yan, Gu Shen was actually a bit curious, not about Goulan, but about the world. Having traveled for so long, he has always been tense and has not fully experienced the customs and traditions of this world. Captain Ma left first, and Gu Shen breathed a sigh of relief. Ma Xiaowei is a senior lieutenant in the Imperial prison, and among the many lieutenants, he is also one of the best. Most lieutenants are in the 8th grade martial arts realm, while Ma Xiaowei is in the 7th grade, just one step away from second-rate experts. However, Captain Ma has gradually passed his prime, and his energy and blood have declined. Without opportunities, he may not be able to take this step in his lifetime. The incident of Gu Shen entering the 9th grade martial arts realm due to misfortune and fortune was just a small episode in the Imperial Edict prison. The reason why everyone is paying attention is mainly because they are colleagues with Gu Shen and have a good relationship. If placed outside, a martial artist in the 9th grade martial arts realm is really nothing. Gu Shen's days have returned to their usual state. But he gradually realized something was wrong, and this was due to Lu Qi, who was still hanging in one breath. Lu Qi has already pleaded guilty and signed a memorial, and the Imperial City Department has also convicted him. He has been executed by a wide range of people, and Lu Qi himself has been executed by Ling Qi. The crime has been committed for many days, but the execution has never been carried out. Based on Gu Shen's understanding of the great-grandson Zhao Shuang, he should seek revenge and eradicate the root cause. He should not have allowed Lu Qi to live until now. Didn't you forget about Lu Qi? Gu Shen shook his head, feeling that he wouldn't. If he were Zhao Shuang, he would never forget someone who was about to kill him with a knife, unless that person died. If you can't figure it out, Gu Shen won't think anymore. He just needs to do his own thing well. In the following days, Gu Shen found another opportunity to absorb the black substance produced by 5 prisoners after their deaths. The 7th to 6th level is just a big hurdle, and there is still some distance to break through the 6th level martial arts realm and become a second-rate expert. This is the first goal set by Gu Shen for himself after crossing over. Gu Shen is not in a hurry, take your time and play steadily. During this period, Su Yan also fulfilled his promise and took Gu Shen to the Xiaoxiang Hall to listen to music. However, after listening to the music, Gu Shen went home alone, and Su Yan went upstairs. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Congenital Merit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Congenital Merit. We are only one step away from the first target, but Gu Shen is not in a hurry. He is well aware that if he is impatient, he will not be able to eat hot tofu and will even burn his mouth. He is very cautious when absorbing black substances, and if he feels there is a risk, he definitely stays away. Sometimes, he only absorbs once every 2 to 3 days. Steady and steady, without leaving any risks. In addition to his daily work and listening to music, Gu Shen has also been paying attention to some techniques on the market these days. The name of the red flame skill that the original body previously practiced may sound intimidating, but it is only a third-rate product in the martial arts world. Moreover, the original body only has half of the red flame skill, which is only enough to cultivate to the third-level martial arts realm, and further purchases are needed. Gu Shen planned to switch to a better cultivation method after reaching the 6th grade, which would only cost him more money. Gu Shen has always believed that money is an external possession, and only by improving his own strength can he be the most fundamental. Regarding the cultivation method, there is actually another way to obtain it without spending money. There are a large number of martial arts masters imprisoned in the Imperial prison, all of whom possess unique skills and possess divine techniques. As a prison guard, Gu Shen did not have much power outside, but for these imprisoned prisoners, he could be said to be the top boss, causing Gu Shen to be unhappy and just starving him for a few days. It's also good to obtain martial arts skills from these martial arts masters. However, doing so carries risks and may expose them. After much thought, Gu Shen felt that it was not appropriate, so he would rather go out and spend money to buy it than take it from these prisoners. On that day, Gu Shen took a half-day off from work with Captain Ma and arrived at Xianyang Square in the capital. There are more escort agencies and martial arts schools here. Previously, I had spent money to join a martial arts school in Xianyangfang and studied red flame skill. Gu Shen stood on a brick and stone road covered in moss, with a gentle breeze and a cool body. He looked at the various martial arts schools on the roadside. Gu Shen did not go to the martial arts school he had joined before, but instead found another martial arts school. The plaque outside this martial arts school read, "Foresees Martial Arts School." Gu Shen only intended to purchase some martial arts techniques and did not intend to become a disciple. Moreover, according to Gu Shen's observation, the owner of this Foresees Martial Arts School should be a 5th or 6th level expert, and there are no second-rate experts besides that. During this period, Gu Shen learned that although internal martial arts techniques are precious, many of them are rare and far from being as difficult to obtain as described in previous martial arts novels. Because not everyone can practice internal skills, the most difficult thing is talent, followed by rare medicinal herbs, which require decades of hard work and hard practice to achieve success. With a small audience, Gu Shen's value is not that great, so as long as he is willing to spend money, he can still buy good martial arts. After some persuasion, Gu Shen purchased Xiantian Gong and spent 370 taels of silver on it. Xiantian Gong is one level higher than his previous practice of red flame gong, and it is said that the techniques of Xiantian Gong can be directly cultivated to the level of Xiantian Grandmaster. The Four Seas Martial Arts School does not have a complete version of Xiantian Gong, and can only cultivate to the level of a first-class master. The Four Seas Martial Arts School has been established for over 80 years, spanning 3 generations, and has only reached the 4th level of cultivation. It is impossible to use the complete version of Xiantian Gong. According to the school owner, there are some sects in the martial arts world who practice Xiantian Gong, and have truly reached the level of a first-class master. It is easy to obtain the complete version of Xiantian Gong. Gu Shen exchanged all the silver in his hand for Xiantian Gong. Many martial artists in the martial arts world will switch to practicing internal skills as they practice. One important reason is that better internal skill cultivation speed is faster, because ordinary people have limited lifespan and shorter periods of vigorous qi and blood. How can they walk longer on the cultivation path in a shorter time? This is what all martial artists need to consider. Therefore, after obtaining better techniques, it is inevitable that they will switch to practicing. However, Gu Shen is different. He has black matter, which is his unique golden finger. With this, he can quickly improve his strength without spending a long time. However, Gu Shen felt that even if changing the cultivation method could only bring him a slight improvement on the original basis, it was still worth it. Money is always an external thing, and improving oneself is the hard truth. Back in the courtyard of Qumingfang, wudong trees and saplings thrive under Gu Shen's careful care. Gu Shen was not in a hurry and immediately switched to practicing Xiantian Gong. He planned to wait until he officially entered the third-level realm before switching to practicing Xiantian Gong. Time passes day by day. Gu Shen's daily life consists of being on duty, listening to music, and occasionally receiving money from the prisoner's family and sharing it with his colleagues. I have a very comfortable little life. Sometimes black matter cannot be absorbed in 1 or 2 days, sometimes it can be absorbed 2 or 3 times a day, and on average, it can also be absorbed once a day. Overall, the progress is quite fast. Gu Shen occasionally saw the figure of a favored general, but only briefly stayed, and then immediately went to the depths of the imperial prison to meditate and practice. He couldn't help but feel grateful that with the passage, there was also the appearance of the golden finger. Otherwise, in this chaotic world, one would be dead both vertically and horizontally. Even though he is as diligent in cultivation as the pacifiers and partial generals, there is still a talent gap. He can only break through to the 9th grade, which is already a stroke of luck. Gu Shen felt that he was getting closer and closer to breaking through the barrier and becoming a 6th-level expert. However, there is a big gap between the 7th and 6th grades, and breaking through it is much more difficult than before. Days just pass by day by day. However, when Gu Shen saw Lu Qi, who was still breathing and not dead, the ominous thoughts in his heart grew heavier and heavier. He increasingly felt that something was wrong. In the next few days, Gu Shen felt the growing internal energy in his body, as if there was only one layer of window paper left from the 6th grade. Just poke through this thin layer of window paper, and he can enter a new world. On the other hand, Gu Shen could clearly sense that the defense in the imperial prison had become increasingly strict, and the generals would occasionally come out and take a walk, and the frequency of the appearance of the pacifier had also increased. There are also some unfamiliar Imperial City Imperial Guards. The Imperial City office is divided into 2 major town offices. The South Town office is in charge of patrols and arrests, and the North Town office is in charge of interrogation and punishment. The notorious Imperial Censorate is the largest institution under the North Town office, and many times the governor personally serves in the Imperial Censorate. Generally speaking, the Imperial Edict and prison are integrated, and there is not much contact with the outside Imperial Court. Now, a group of unfamiliar faces have suddenly appeared in the Imperial Edict and prison, which is somewhat unusual. The mountain rain is about to come, and the wind fills the building. Gu Shen sounded an alarm in his heart. 2 more days passed. Snow drifted from the sky. Time is really fast. In the blink of an eye, Gu Shen has been in this world for 3 months now. From autumn to winter. Gu Shen walked out of the yard and headed to Jianmao in the imperial prison. Watching the snowflakes drift, he felt a sense of emotion in his heart. However, he couldn't help but feel a bit distracted while walking. Coupled with the slippery road on a snowy day, he accidentally stepped into a mud pit and sprained his foot. Gu Shen limped to the imperial prison, and his colleagues noticed his abnormality. When Gu Shen lifted his pants to show everyone, his calves were already swollen and high. Hiss, it's so serious. Xiao Gu, why don't you take a leave and go home for a 2-day rest? Zhang Qinggong was startled by the high swelling on Gu Shen's calf. Su Yan also frowned and said, Xiao Gu, you were too careless. However, it suddenly snowed heavily today and the ground was very slippery. I almost slipped, so don't hold on so hard. Take a leave and go home for rest and recuperation. Li Jie also suggested that Gu Shen go home and rest for 2 days before returning to work after the swelling subsides. Gu Shen limped and asked Ma Xiaowei for leave. Ma Xiaowei agreed and advised, Xiao Gu, go home and rest for 2 days. I'll see a doctor and apply it to you. You are now a 9th grade martial artist and your qi and blood flow is fast. It's estimated that you will recover in 2 to 3 days. Thank you very much, sir. Gu Shen said his gratitude and then limped home to rest. Stepping out of the Imperial Edict prison, a heavy snowfall fell from the sky, and Gu Shen took one step at a time. In the wind and snow, he turned around and glanced at the Bayan at the entrance of the Imperial Edict prison, which seemed even more aggressive. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Changes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Changes. Gu Shen is already a master in the 7th grade martial arts realm. Even if he were to lose consciousness and step into the mud pit, he would never have been so seriously injured. The swelling of his calves was completely deliberate on his part. As the heavy snow fell, Gu Shen's sense of unease grew stronger, so he directed and acted in this scene to avoid the limelight. The sky is getting dark, but the wind and snow have not stopped. Gu Shen lies in his bedroom. Looking through the window lattice, he sees the small wudong tree swaying under the wind and snow pressure in the yard. He wants to get up and put up a board to cover the wind and snow for the small wudong tree. I am currently a patient and cannot move around. Gu Shen said, looking at the poor little wudong tree in the yard. He shook his head, saying that he could not help. At night, Zhang Qinggong came with some pastries and vegetables. Xiao Gu, how are you? Are you feeling better? Zhang Qinggong placed his things on the table of the 8 immortals in the main room and asked Gu Shen. It's much better, Uncle Zhang. I guess I'll just lie down for 2 days, Gu Shen said. Zhang Qinggong and Gu Shen's father have a good relationship, and before his death, Gu Shen's father instructed Zhang Qinggong to take care of Gu Shen more. Since Gu Shen took over his father's position and entered the imperial prison, Zhang Qinggong has indeed taken many photos of him. Xiao Gu, you have the ability. Now you have become a 9th grade master. Work hard, and strive to move up a bit. Be a serious and upright flag of the Imperial City Department, and be more outstanding than a prison guard for a lifetime. Zhang Qinggong sighed. Gu Shen scratched his head and said, Uncle Zhang, I don't want to be a small flag. Being a prison guard would satisfy me. Xiaoqi is a 7th rank official who truly has an official position, but Xiaoqi has one thing that is not as good as a prison guard. That is, he is ordered by the Imperial City Department, and may one day be transferred from the Imperial Prison. The prison guard is different, and will only work in the Imperial Prison for a lifetime. So Gu Shen's words are not modest, he really thinks so. Don't even talk about the small flag, he won't even exchange it for a pacifier. Zhang Qinggong laughed and was amused by Gu Shen. After saying a few more words, Zhang Qinggong was preparing to leave. It was still snowing heavily outside, and he also wanted to go home early to have some hot soup and wine, and enjoy the snow with his family. Uncle Zhang. Zhang Qinggong had just walked to the main entrance when he was stopped by Gu Shen. Zhang Qinggong turned his head and looked at Gu Shen, saying, Ah. Gu Shen couldn't help but remind him, be extra careful and pay attention to safety. There are some things that cannot be said too clearly. If it were to spread, there might be some trouble, and besides, he is also guessing, not necessarily accurate. I can only remind you this way. Zhang Qinggong smiled and walked out. I know, slow down on the road, you definitely can't step in the mud pit like you do. Gu Shen walked to the entrance of the courtyard and sighed as he watched Zhang Qinggong's figure gradually drift away in the snow and wind. I hope everything is okay. Gu Shen turned around and turned back into the courtyard. That night, Gu Shen tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The sound of the wind outside the window made Gu Shen feel sleepy and stood up to meditate. Feeling the circulation of internal qi in the body one after another. This state made Gu Shen immerse himself, forgetting the time and the harsh weather outside. With a rooster crowing, Gu Shen stopped practicing. He has almost reached the peak of 7th grade, and Gu Shen feels that even without relying on black matter, he can quickly enter 6th grade. Walking down from the bed, Gu Shen opened the door and looked outside. The sky was slightly brightening, and as far as I could see, it was a vast expanse of white. The snow is still falling, but the snow is no longer as strong as last night. Watching the snow outside without calves, Gu Shen suddenly thought of something. How are the refugees outside the city doing? In recent years, the Dayin Dynasty has faced internal and external troubles, with the Yuan Dynasty knocking on the border and uprisings in the south and north. During the rise and fall of a dynasty, the people suffered the most. The capital's foreign exchange has gathered a large number of refugees fleeing from the south, and ordinary days are already difficult to endure. This time, it has snowed so heavily, alas, this world is a mess. Gu Shen can imagine that outside the city, there must be corpses everywhere, freezing to death countless people. In the morning, Gu Shen limped out of the yard and found a restaurant to eat. The restaurant is very lively. Oh, this snow is really heavy. Widow Wang's pigsty has been crushed by the snow, and several piglets have been smashed to death. I went to the outside of the city early in the morning to take a look, it was simply unbearable. At least 400 to 500 refugees were frozen to death. I thought I would freeze to death 1,000 or 2,000. With such heavy snow, the refugees outside the city don't even have a shelter. Thanks to the officials from LV in the north of the city, they have been building refugee camps since yesterday morning, allowing many old, young, women, and children to live inside and save their lives. Otherwise, you can see, there will be 2,000 to 3,000 refugees killed. TSK, LV Guanren has courage. His ancestors have produced a 4th-rank magistrate, leaving behind many industries. However, in his generation, LV Guanren probably doesn't have much left. He is on the verge of his own downfall and even goes to rescue refugees outside the city. The high-ranking officials and wealthy merchants in this big capital city, who are more prosperous than the LV family, are not ordinary. Compared to LV Guanren, I am truly ashamed. After finishing his meal, Gu Shen left the restaurant. He didn't hear about the situation on the side of the imperial edict, so there shouldn't be anything wrong. However, he heard many people discussing the LV Guanren, who was rescuing refugees. Although he was not masked, Gu Shen had deep admiration for this official from LV. Returning to the yard, Gu Shen cleared the snow in the yard. Then he brewed a pot of tea and sat at the main door, pondering while drinking tea. Perhaps I guessed wrong. If something really happened, then last night's heavy snowfall was a good opportunity, but there was nothing wrong with the imperial edict. Those new faces from the Imperial City Department may be a normal job transfer. That bastard Taisun may have really forgotten about Lu Qi, but he's probably not someone as cautious as me. Gu Shen thought about cultivating for another 2 days and going back to work if there was nothing else to do. He still enjoys this job very much. By the way, I haven't been absorbing black substances for the time being these days. My current state may break through the 6th grade shackles at any time. Once I absorb black substances, I will definitely break through. The prison is now much stricter than usual, and the pacification and bias generals occasionally come out to break through, which is not suitable for absorbing black substances. Black matter sounds a bit unpleasant, I can give it a new name, such as Holy Qi, Wangba Qi, Spirit Qi, Immortal Qi, Black Qi. Gu Shen shook his head, feeling that none of these names were appropriate. Black matter is derived from the corpse of a criminal after death. Can it be called the aura of death? Gu Shen has been thinking about things at home for a whole day. At night, the snow had already stopped. There was no longer the sound of wind and snow calls outside the window lattice, and Gu Shen felt that he could have a good night's sleep. Gu Shen lay in bed, closed his eyes, and gradually fell asleep. Dong! With a loud bang, Gu Shen was startled and jumped out of bed. He looked around cautiously and realized that there was no problem around him before finally letting out a sigh of relief. He walked out of the main room and came to the yard under the wudong tree. He gently touched the snow with his toes and jumped onto the wudong tree with a handful of snow foam. Stand tall and see far. Gu Shen looked to the southeast, and the fire was raging. That's the imperial decree. Gu Shen's eyebrows suddenly furrowed. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Imperial City Commissioner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Imperial City Commissioner. There must be a problem with the Imperial Edict, my guess is not wrong. Gu Shen walked back and forth in the courtyard with his hands behind his back, whispering softly. Step by step. Step by step. Step by step. Suddenly, the sound of swift footsteps and hooves came from outside the courtyard door. Gu Shen walked quickly to the entrance of the courtyard and looked out through the crack in the door. A armored forbidden army passed through here. Looking at the direction, it should be to go to the imperial prison. Gu Shen frowned. He really wants to know what happened on the other side of the imperial prison. After standing in the yard for a while, Gu Shen turned around and returned to the main room, lying back in bed. It's no use trying to break your mind now, it's clear after dawn. There are 110 squares in the capital, which are shaped like a Go board. The imperial prison is located in Anqing Square, and there are Xingye Square, Pingkong Square, and Xianyang Square separated from Gu Shen's Chuming Square. Although they are also a few squares apart, they are actually not very far, only a few kilometers away. The commotion on the other side of the imperial edict caught the attention of many people in Qumingfang, but it was only a small gossip in their own homes. The next day. The sky is slightly brightening. Gu Shen got up from bed and the commotion on the other side of the imperial edict stopped in the latter half of the night. After eating something casually, Gu Shen looked at his swollen calf and went to the imperial prison to be on duty. He only took 2 days off. The snow on the road has been cleared, and Gu Shen is not walking fast, thinking about something. After passing through Xianyang Fang, Pingkong Fang, Dongshe, and Xingye Fang, we arrived at the imperial prison located in Anqing Fang. Standing in front of the imperial prison gate, Gu Shen looked at the carved fierce beast Bayan, as if there was an extra layer of blood. Entering the imperial prison, Gu Shen saw a chaotic scene. Multiple prison doors have been smashed, large holes have been made in the walls, and in a corner, there are still some pieces of meat tangled with rags, with signs of fighting everywhere. Gu Shen couldn't help but marvel. Even if an ordinary person exercises their body strongly, without the support of internal energy, the limit of their body is only 500 kilograms per fist. He is now a warrior in the 7th grade martial arts realm, capable of producing a force of 2,000 kilograms with just one punch. It is easy to destroy a gate wall outside, but inside the imperial prison, all buildings are crafted using special secret techniques to specifically imprison martial arts masters. Gu Shen punched with all his might, and at most, he cracked some cracks on the buildings inside the imperial prison. The incident last night was quite chaotic, Gu Shen thought to himself. Walking along the passage, he plans to look for familiar colleagues and see their situation, while also learning about what happened last night. After walking a few steps, Gu Shen saw Xiaoqi Xuyan and Li Ga. Brother Su, Brother Li. Gu Shen said hello, only to realize that something was wrong when he approached. Su Yan was okay, but Li Ga's face was pale and he was hanging an arm. What is this? Brother Li, what's wrong with you? Gu Shen asked in surprise. As he approached, Gu Shen finally saw clearly that the bandage on Li Ga's arm had turned blood red. Li Jie smiled bitterly. Gu Shen said, "Brother Li, why don't you take a leave and go back to rest after suffering such a serious injury?" Su Yan took a light breath and said, "There were many casualties last night, and we were short of manpower. If you don't come today, Captain Ma will probably have to find someone to urge you back." Speaking, Su Yan looked at Li Jie, who was hanging his arm beside him, and said, "He's pretty good. At least he saved his life and didn't get seriously injured. Like old Zhang, his life is gone." As if a thunderbolt sounded in his ear, Gu Shen was stunned on the spot. For a long time, Gu Shen said in a deep voice, "Uncle Zhang." Su Yan sighed and said, "Yesterday, the commander clashed with the rebels, causing chaos in the prison. Old Zhang was hit half of his head by a stone and died on the spot. Sigh, it's also pitiful." Upon hearing the news of Zhang Qinggong's death last night, a wave of grief surged in Gu Shen's chest. Over the past few months, Zhang Qinggong has been taking good care of him. He sprained his foot the day before yesterday and braved the heavy snow to visit him. That night, when Zhang Qinggong was about to leave, Gu Shen specifically reminded him to be careful in all things. Unexpectedly, it was still Su Yan and Li Jie both knew about the relationship between Gu Shen and Zhang Qinggong and spoke up to comfort them. With the death of Mr. Zhang, his family has lost its pillars. Let's take care of him more in the future. Xiao Gu, don't be sad. After we release the government office, let's go to Mr. Zhang's house together to offer condolences. Su Yan said. Gu Shen nodded. Feeling a bit heavy, Gu Shen took a deep breath and looked at Su Yan, asking, "Brother Su, what exactly happened last night?" Su Yan looked left and right, but there were no outsiders before lowering his voice and telling Gu Shen about the big events that happened in the prison last night. Yesterday afternoon, there was a sudden increase in security in the prison, and we all received a notice that we would not release the yamen anymore. We had big work to do at night. From Su Yan's mouth, Gu Shen roughly learned about what happened in the imperial prison last night. His previous speculation was correct. Lu Qi had actually died a long time ago. The reason why he is still alive is not because Zhao Shuang forgot that dog thing, but because he was used as bait by the Imperial City Bureau for fishing. Originally, it was said that Lu Qi colluded with the rebels to plot rebellion and assassinate Tai Sun, which was just the reason for the Imperial City Bureau. However, when copying Lu Qi's family, he actually discovered letters related to the rebels in Yenzhou. At that time, a small flag from the Imperial City Department deliberately took out a letter hidden in his chest to prepare for framing Lu Qi, and compared it with the letter found in Lu Qi's study. At first, he thought that one of his peers had taken the lead. After finding the correspondence between Lu Qi and the rebels, the Imperial City Department immediately took this matter seriously. Following the clues, the Imperial City Bureau discovered a lot of news. For example, one of the rebel leaders was a fellow disciple of Lu Qi, who had always wanted to invite Lu Qi to join. Additionally, several other rebel leaders had already had a relationship with Lu Qi before gathering to rebel. The Imperial City Department deliberately spread the news of the upcoming Lingqi Lu uprising to Yenzhou, which attracted a group of strong rebels from Yenzhou to issue a decree to break free from prison. Last night, more than 100 martial arts experts rushed into the Imperial Edict prison, intending to rob Lu Qi. However, the Imperial City Department was already prepared. The Imperial City Department's envoy personally took charge of the Imperial Decree prison, and all the rebels who came to rob the prison were caught. Not a single one escaped, including top-notch experts of the third grade. According to Su Yan, a seemingly powerful expert was about to run and was slapped by the envoy from 6 to 7 zhang in the air, causing him to split into pieces. The scene was extremely brutal. Gu Shen shrank his neck and a chill surged up. Although he had never shown it in the past few days, he was also somewhat pleased with the rapid progress of his cultivation. However, compared to the envoy, it was still a cloud of mud. The envoy could possibly take his own life with just a flick of his finger. Gu Shen bit the tip of his tongue to recover from the shock. He looked at Su Yan and Li Jie in front of him and could only sigh. The whole person was slightly silent. After a big battle last night, the prison was bustling with activity. Su Yan was called away by Captain Ma, while Gu Shen and the injured Li Jie began patrolling the prison. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Goulan listening to music. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Goulan listening to music. Lu Qi died. When Gu Shen patrolled the prison cell, he did not see Lu Qi. After a little inquiry, it was found that Lu Qi died in the prison robbery last night. He should have died a long time ago, but he was used as bait by the Imperial City Department to fish, and he barely breathed a sigh of relief. Last night's big move, with a slight microwave, the breath of hanging on land disappeared. However, although Lu Qi was gone, during his inspection of various cells, Gu Shen found that most of the A-class cells were occupied by prisoners. This is the group of Yenzhou rebel leaders who were jailed last night. A prisoner who can be imprisoned in a first-class prison is at worst a fourth-grade expert. In the 37th year of Emperor Xuanhe's reign, 18 martial arts heroes on the Green Forest Road in Yenzhou formed a righteous alliance with Jinlan. The following month, they raised their anti-flag with great momentum, sweeping through most of Yenzhou. However, after last night's battle, the Yenzhou rebellion was destined not to have a major impact, with 9 out of 18 leaders falling. 4 people were killed on the spot last night, and 5 were locked up in Class A cells. The prisoner detained in Room A is named Lei Zhen, a second-grade martial arts expert, nicknamed Yenzhou Taisui. The prisoner detained in Room A is named Wang Ning, a second-grade martial arts expert, nicknamed the Death-Taking Spear Demon. The name of the prisoner detained in Room A is Pei Siwen, a third-grade martial arts expert, nicknamed Yellow-Faced Lion Dragon. The prisoner detained in Room 4 is named Deng Lin, a third-grade martial arts expert, nicknamed the God of the Morning Gate. The prisoner detained in Room 5 is named Jin Weiyuan, a fourth-grade martial arts master and nicknamed the Demon King of the World. The Yenzhou anti-army values loyalty and loyalty. In order to save Lu Qi, they not only poured out all their troops, but also deployed most of their top-level combat capabilities. Over the past few days, Gu Shen has gained an understanding of the warriors of the Dayin Dynasty. There is only one martial arts master, who is the current General Dong Sheng, who is stationed in the capital. In addition, there is no other martial arts master in the entire Dayin Dynasty, at least on the surface. There are only a few first-class experts, no more than 5 fingers, and the Imperial City Department's envoy is among them. A first-class expert of second and third grade can already be said to be a great contender in the world. After last night's battle, along with several leaders who were killed on the spot, there were 5 top-notch experts in the Yenzhou anti-army who were trapped in the imperial prison. When delivering food to Room A at noon, Gu Shen was particularly cautious. If his understanding of first-class experts was still relatively vague in the past, then now he really has a much more detailed understanding. The prison cell made of meteorite refined iron was beaten to pieces, and Gu Shen felt that if he survived for a while, it would probably be a pile of broken meat. Faced with the disdain, cursing, and ignoring of the strong people in the A-class room, Gu Shen only smiled slightly. Gu Shen felt that it would be better if the entire imperial prison were built according to the A-class prison, absorbing black substances and practicing meditation directly. No one could see it. Gu Shen is also considering slowing down his cultivation speed. If the environment does not allow it, when it comes to breaking through the bottleneck, he can practice on his own to avoid absorbing black substances and suddenly breaking through, which may lead to poor control of internal qi and attract attention. After being released from the government office, Gu Shen, Su Yan, and Li Jie went to Zhang Qinggong's home to offer condolences. There is a white cloth hanging outside the gate of the courtyard, and some people in the courtyard wear mourning clothes. Gu Shen gave 10 taels of silver as silk gold. 10 taels of silver is considered too much, but Zhang Qinggong has taken care of Gu Shen Duo, and Gu Shen Duo is also saddened by Zhang Qinggong's misfortune. The family gathered around, their faces sorrowful. Zhang Qinggong's son's name is Zhang Xunli. He is 16 years old and has a somewhat similar appearance to Zhang Qinggong. His skin is dark and his body is thin. Thank you, sir. Zhang Xunli kowtowed to Gu Shen in return, which is a funeral etiquette. Zhang Xunli thought that Gu Shen, like Su Yan and Li Jie, was a small flag of the Imperial City Department and called him Lord. Gu Shen helped the young man up and sighed, "When your father was here, he took good care of me. You can call me Brother Gu." Although the Imperial prison guards are not appointed by the Imperial City Bureau, they are also hereditary iron rice bowls. As long as the family is not extinct, their descendants can continue to work. If Zhang Qinggong goes, he will come forward. After a few days, Zhang Qinggong's funeral is over, and he should go to the Imperial prison to be on duty. Zhang Xunli tearfully said, "Thank you very much, Brother Gu." After offering condolences, Gu Shen, Su Yan, and Li Jie left. Su Yan and Li Jie were going to Xiaoxiang Pavilion to relieve their heavy mood, but Gu Shen didn't go with them. When passing by Dongshe, he bought a pot of wine and 5 pounds of roasted beef and went back to his home in Qumingfang. There was still snow in the yard. Gu Shen set up a small table under the wutong. I drank until late at night, then let out a heavy sigh and turned back to the main room. In the following days, Gu Shen practiced on his own while watching as Captain Ma punished the strong men in the A-class prison. Gu Shen actually hopes that the strong people can hold on for more time. He has now reached the peak of the 7th grade and wants to break through on his own. After breaking through the 6th grade realm, he can quickly improve with the help of the strong people in the 1st-class prison. For these rebel leaders, Gu Shen had both praise and criticism, but they were much more pleasing to the eye than those like Tai Sun Zhao Shuang. Therefore, Gu Shen did not deliberately make things difficult for them and did not actively accelerate the process of their death. He just needs to wait slowly. After being released from the government office, Gu Shen often went to Xiaoxiang Hall with his colleagues and worked for a whole day, always wanting to enjoy himself. Gu Shen went to the Xiaoxiang Pavilion just to listen to music. If he was happy, he would give him more rewards. As for further work, Gu Shen never did it. It's not that he keeps himself clean, but that he has too many secrets to be careless. Xiaoxiang Pavilion is one of the top 10 brothels in the capital, not among the top 5, but also quite famous. The Xiaoxiang Pavilion is not just a meat and skin business, otherwise Gu Shen would not have become a regular here. The Xiaoxiang Pavilion occasionally holds events and invites some musical instrument enthusiasts. The Song family invited a few days ago claimed to be the #1 pipa player in Jiangnan, playing the pipa with one hand that was heart-stopping and twirling the beam for 3 days. Gu Shen has gone many times, and the girls inside have also formed some impressions of him. Especially every time Gu Shen goes to the Xiaoxiang Pavilion, he only listens to music but is extravagant. There is no cat in the world that does not steal fish, but Gu Shen is like a cat that does not steal fish. In addition, Gu Shen has a handsome appearance and outstanding temperament, which is highly favored by some girls. Some girls throw olive branches at Gu Shen and invite him to be the guest of honor. Gu Shen repeatedly refused invitations from the girls, which really made Su Yan, Li Jie, and others envious and jealous. However, Gu Shen did only want to simply listen to music and relax his suppressed mood at the Xiaoxiang Pavilion. Moreover, Gu Shen found that many popular rumors could also be heard in such occasions. For example, the person from LV Yuanming and LV Guanren in the north of the city is often mentioned, and many people give a thumbs up when talking about LV Guanren, whether they recognize or not. Scatter all your wealth to save refugees. Perhaps I don't have kindness, but when I see others doing good deeds with kindness, I can't help but admire them. Some people are also dissatisfied with LV Yuanming's acts of kindness, such as some children of high-ranking officials and nobles. What LV Yuanming did was supposed to be done by the adults in the court, but now the adults have not done it. LV Yuanming has done it, and the public praises LV Yuanming. In contrast, the adults in the court are eating vegetarian meals, which naturally displeased the second generation. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Achieving Goals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Achieving Goals. On that day, late at night, snowflakes drifted up in the capital again. Qumingfang, Gu Shen's home. Gu Shen sat cross-legged on the bed, exercising his internal skills and circulating his entire body's meridians. In the hazy night, Gu Shen looked serious and pursed his lips tightly. If you look closely, you can see some dark impurities being expelled from his body. Half an hour later, Gu Shen suddenly opened his eyes, which were surprisingly bright, more agile and sparkling than before. As the cultivation continued, the light in my eyes gradually dissipated. Is this the feeling of 6th grade? Gu Shen stopped practicing and got off the bed, feeling the vigorous power contained within his body. After the breakthrough, he felt that his strength had doubled compared to the peak of his 7th grade. Gripping his fist, Gu Shen felt that with just one punch, he could have a tremendous force of nearly 3,000 kilograms. After feeling the change in internal qi for a while, Gu Shen took a cold shower. Although it was deep winter and the weather was cold, Gu Shen's body was like a big furnace, not afraid of the extreme cold at all. After washing away the dark impurities on the surface of his body, Gu Shen lowered his head and looked at his own skin. Originally, his skin tone was slightly white, but now it is even more fair and crystal clear, comparable to the girls in the Xiaoxiang pavilion. Returning to the bedroom, Gu Shen changed the bedding and sat cross-legged on the bed. Breaking through the 6th level realm, Gu Shen no longer continued to cultivate red flame skill, but instead switched to the higher quality, innate nature skill. The operation root of Xiantian Gong has already been tested hundreds of times in Gu Shen's mind, and now it is running, and he will soon become familiar with it. The powerful internal qi in his body was circulating, and Gu Shen closed his eyes to feel the foreign internal qi that had almost taken his life before. That wisp of internal qi is already slightly undetectable. Even if Gu Shen doesn't break through, it won't be long before it will be driven away by Gu Shen's internal qi. Now that Gu Shen has broken through the 6th grade, he can easily crush that strand of internal energy during operation. This internal injury, which was previously considered a major concern by Gu Shen, has now fully recovered. Opening his eyes, Gu Shen took a deep breath, his face full of undisclosed joy. His internal worries have been relieved, and it is indeed worth letting him breathe a sigh of relief. The prisoner named Zhang Wuqing's cultivation technique should be extraordinary. His internal energy is particularly tenacious. The ordinary internal energy should have been eliminated long ago, but this strand of internal energy has been delayed until now before it is completely eliminated. But now that the internal injury has fully recovered, it's also a big good thing. Gu Shen chuckled lightly. When he first crossed over, he set a goal for himself, which was to break through the 6th level realm, dispel stubborn internal qi in his body, and save his life. After nearly 4 months, the goal has finally been achieved. Gu Shen lay in bed, looking at the window lattice and lost in thought. Although he entered the 6th grade and became a second-rate expert, Gu Shen quickly calmed down after the initial excitement. One is related to his personality, being cautious in his actions. Secondly, it is related to the prison robbery. The 3rd-level master was unexpectedly beaten to pieces by the envoy, and his small body, which had just broken through the 6th level, probably couldn't bear a finger of the envoy. The waters of this court and the rivers and lakes are still deep and cannot be disturbed. We must continue to struggle and at least become a first-class expert like the minister. Not to mention the existence or non-existent hidden world monsters, the Imperial City Minister Gu Shen is a great expert who can rank among the top 5 in the world. Gu Shen felt that if he also had the high skills of a minister, he could breathe a sigh of relief. Ordinary people who want to become first-class experts will only laugh and be generous when they say it out loud, and first-class experts in the world are already rare, let alone first-class experts who are already at the top. But Gu Shen is different. He has golden fingers, which is the fundamental basis for his survival. With the help of his golden finger, Gu Shen is confident that he will become a top grade, and the usage time will be very short, at least much shorter than others. Thinking of this, several figures appeared in Gu Shen's mind. In the depths of the imperial prison, in the most tightly guarded grade A cell, there are 5 rare experts in the world. The stronger the strength of the corpse before death, the thicker the black material produced after death, and the greater the feedback on Gu Shen. Gu Shen estimated that the black substance produced by the second-level master after his death may be 10 times that of an ordinary warrior. The envoy personally took action to eliminate the group of prison robbers and paved the way for Gu Shen. Time passes day by day. The Imperial Edict prison has also returned to its usual state, with only some shattered walls indicating that there have been intense clashes here. During this period, a new prison guard arrived, and after handling Zhang Qinggong's affairs, Zhang Xunli came over to replace his father's vacancy and became a proud prison guard. Zhang Qinggong took good care of Gu Shen before his death, and now Gu Shen also takes good care of his son. Gu Shen's life has become a 3.1, with his home, Imperial Prison, and Xiaoxiang Mansion. Unconsciously, Gu Shen had become a regular visitor to the Xiaoxiang Hall, and the brothels, girls, and maids in the hall gradually got to know him. Gu Shen is generous with his hands, but he only listens to music. Who wouldn't like this kind of guest? On that day, while on duty in the Imperial Edict, Su Yan approached Gu Shen with a mysterious expression and whispered, "Xiao Gu, let's go to Xiaoxiang Hall together after we release the government today." Gu Shen was taken aback and thought to himself, which day didn't you go? However, seeing Su Yan's appearance, Gu Shen thought something might be wrong and asked, "Brother Su, what's wrong?" Su Yan chuckled and said, "Everyone's song has returned." Upon hearing Su Yan's words, Gu Shen didn't react for a moment, but seeing Su Yan's lewd smile on his face, Gu Shen suddenly remembered who the Song family was from Su Yan's mouth. When Gu Shen had just traveled, Su Yan said that a song master, known as the #1 pipa player in Jiangnan, had come to Beijing and settled in the Xiaoxiang Pavilion, which attracted many high school children in the capital to come and see Fang Yan. At that time, Su Yan also invited Gu Shen, but at that time, Gu Shen's main focus was on how to solve the hidden dangers in his body, and he did not go with Su Yan. Gu Shen originally planned to go to Xiaoxiang Hall to listen to music after being released from the yamen. Besides, a few days ago, he heard Su Yan praising how beautiful everyone in Song was. Gu Shen was also curious and said, "Su, let's go together, let's go together." After being released from the government office, Su Yan, Gu Shen, Li Jie, and Zhang Xunli went to the Xiaoxiang Hall together. Zhang Xunli is like a young bird, curious about everything in the Xiaoxiang Pavilion, such as the magnificent hall, the elegant room full of artistic charm, the charming madam, and the fair-skinned, beautiful, and soft-bodied girl. End of this chapter.